There's our friendly universal form with only 8 arms. Underlined in the first part of this verse is kalam. In this verse, Queen Kunti is going to address Krishna as eternal time. And eternal time does lots of things. She's going to express his sama, his neutrality towards all living entities. And she's going to express that there's Kali. It's the age of Kali, right? So the last word, quarrel or dissension. And dissension has to do with A and B, forgetfulness of Krishna, and clashing of interests due to social intercourse. So here's the verse.
Samam charantam sarvatra bhutanam yantitakali
Manye tvam kalam ishanam anadi nidhanam vibhom samam charantam sarvatra bhutanam yanmita kalihi.
Manditvam kalamisha.
Really? What happened?
Manditvam kalamisha. Anadi nidhanam samam charantam sarvatra bhutanam yantitakali
Manye tvam kalam ishanam anandi nidhanam vibhom samam charantam sarvatra bhutanam yanmitasani. Sing that second time.
Manditvam kalamisha. Anadi nidhanam samam charantam sarvatra bhutanam yantitakali
Manye tvam kalam ishanam anadi nidhanam vibhom samam charantam sarvatra bhutanam yanmitakalihi. My Lord, I consider your Lordship to be eternal time, the supreme controller without beginning and end, the all-pervasive one. In distributing your mercy, you are equal to everyone. The dissensions between living beings are due to social intercourse. And in Prabhupada's purport, he gives attention to the word destiny, or the concept of destiny. But the image isn't changing for some reason. Help! Rishabhanu, help! Oh, Rishabhanu. Well, I'll just get him because it's not working properly. So I'm looking at my screen. It says one thing, and this says something else. So there's a question being raised in the commentary. And the question being raised in the commentary is whether or not there's free will. Or if there isn't free will, how are things predetermined? Now what's happening is what's on my screen and what's on that screen are two different things. There we go. Magic. Okay. Is there free will or not? Or is everything predetermined? Is the Ishvara of destiny neutral or partial to his devotees? What do you think? Who has the answer to this second question? Partial or neutral? Partial or neutral? Partially partial and partially neutral. Partial. Let's see what the commentary says. Is our spiritual destiny also predetermined? Well, in other words, it's either we're going back to Godhead or we're not, or we're going to this destination spiritually or not. And is it predetermined? Of course not. So there are things, this is another category of things that seem to be contradictory. And in that contradictory space, it seems to be mysterious. Here's Vishwanath Chakrabarti paraphrasing her prayer. I do not know you. Covered by the screen of Maya. This is going back to text 19. Remember that one? What was the word? Javanika. Beyond the knowledge of the material senses and unaffected, just as a puppeteer behind the screen moving the puppets is not understood by the eyes of the ignorant. The previous text. Remember this guy? Did you see this guy before? Yeah. So here's another image meant to illustrate something similar. There's, it looks like a lunar eclipse, solar eclipse. And there's the moon covering the sun, but the sun is there, just can't see the full brightness of the sun because of the eclipse. So Krishna may say in response, but you see me directly and praise me. You know that I'm beyond Prakriti, then why do you criticize yourself as being ignorant? This is Vishwanath. Though the dancer is endowed with rhythms and dance steps suitable to the rasa, the ignorant spectator, ignorant of the scriptures delineating performance, sees only a dancer dancing. Though he sees, he does not really see. Similarly, though I see you, I do not see you. The word tata, or similarly, should be understood from the context. Though you protect the Pandavas, your devotees, since you are the soul within all of us constantly, you personally counteracted a weapon of Ashvatthama meant for killing the Pandavas. Well, it meant for killing Parikshit Maharaj. Though you promised not to use weapons, you took up a weapon. Though you protect the righteous, you had Bhishma and other righteous persons destroyed. We discussed this previously, remember? Yes? Good. Though you are not most affectionate to Draupadi and Subhadra, you let their sons be killed. I do not know the truth about your pastime. So it looks like he's not partial to the devotees. He let the sons of Draupadi and Subhadra become killed. So here's the message at the very beginning of the verse. The Paramatma feature of the Lord is Kala, or eternal time. Now there's a Shakti, Kala Shakti, that's not exactly Paramatma, but the Shakti of Paramatma, or one could also say the Shakti of Mahavishnu. So go ahead. There's there's difference and there's not difference. In short, Mahavishnu, Garbhodakshay Vishnu, and Kshirodakshay Vishnu, Paramatma, they're different and non-different. They're different manifestations of the same entity, Vishnu. So it's one entity, variously manifested. Meaning, in other words, when Mahavishnu's glance over Pradhan takes place, the time energy of Mahavishnu is carried with the glance. And the time energy, along with the living entities, begins procreation or begins creation. Anyway, the Paramatma feature of the Lord is Kala, or eternal time. So she's looking at Krishna sitting in the chariot. Your eternal time. Eternal time is the witness of all our actions, good and bad, and thus resultant reactions are destined. But they're destined due to what? Our actions. So which is it, destiny or us? Is there free will or is there not? Well, by free will choices, we act, and then we're bound by the reaction, which is destiny. But we chose, we are not forced to choose this or that. Prabhupada goes on, as we've heard, without his sanction, not a blade of grass can move. And thus, the living beings are given as much freedom as they deserve. Nice image, right? Breaking the bonds of the chain of bondage. It's a mystery, and on the other hand, it's quite simple, not so mysterious. We buy into reactions by our actions. And the reactions are according to the laws of nature, not according to predisposition of the Supreme Lord towards his devotee. The devotee, the one who is a devotee, chooses in relation to Krishna. The one who is not choosing in relation to Krishna chooses. And based upon the choice, then there's a response. Or the living beings are given as much freedom as they deserve. And then the opposite, misuse of that freedom is the cause of suffering. So it's not Krishna's partiality, in short. It's Krishna's reciprocation. And one of the ways that he arranges reciprocation is through his time energy. So Kala offers conditioned souls both happiness and miseries. The time energy, or Paramatma, who work through his time energy. This destiny is made by the living beings in the course of social intercourse, meaning we make choices and we choose the association that we keep commonly, or if we're in an association we're stuck with, it has something to do with free will choices in the past. The Supreme Lord is all-pervading, and therefore he can see everyone's activities. And how is he all-pervading? He's all-pervading as Paramatma. And now back to the example of saving Maharaj Parikshit from the Brahmastra of Ashvatthama. So Maharaj Parikshit was saved because he's Maharaj Parikshit, because he's a great devotee. And but it looked like partiality. But he was a great devotee because of what he had done to become a great devotee, to take birth in this family, etc., etc. Because the Lord has no beginning and end, he is known also as the eternal time, or Kala. Again, paraphrasing Queen Kunti, I consider you to be the destroyer of the offenders, the controller without beginning and end, the most powerful, equal to all, moving everywhere in all living beings, and the abode of conflicting qualities. That was why showing that contradictory message in the beginning. Commentary reads, this verse describes the Lord's destruction, or kalam, of those who offend his devotees. You are not unjust, or samam, because you show attachment to the devotees, indifference to matter, insistence to some, and destruction to others, reciprocating with their orientation towards him. Yad Mita Kalihi means in whom there is conflict, because the Lord gives suffering and bliss. He is equal and prejudiced, is merciful, unmerciful, and merciful. Those terminologies are external. The internal is he's not, but external it looks like favoring some and not favoring others, merciful to some and not merciful to others. Apparently contradictory natures. In him, all apparently contradictory opposites are resolved. And the word that's being used in Prabhupada's translation is this is the irreproachable factor. We can't criticize him for that. Okay. Now, again, going back, because we're at verse 25, here's verse 19. Remember verse 19? The irreproachable factor covered by the curtain of diluting energy. Remember that verse? And like actors on the stage, they can't perceive one another because they're costumed. So Krishna disguises himself by this curtain of Maya so that non-devotees can't see him, can't understand him, become bewildered, throw in the towel. It's too complicated. In other words, this verse 28 is borrowing and expanding on some of the earlier themes. And the earlier themes, if you remember from the very first day, and then again after we finished the first section and started this morning, a summary of the next section, humility, bhakti versus jnana, and then the apparently contradictory nature of Krishna. These are some themes in Kunti's prayers. So this particular 28 is also touching on apparently contradictory features. She goes on that people only imagine you to be partial. Let's go on. Naveda kasyat bhagavan shakirshitam Vehamanasya nunam vidambanam Nayasya kashit dayatosti karhachid Vishesha tasmin vishamavatiranam.
Naveda Kachit Bhagavan Shishita Dehamanasya Naminam Nayasya Kachit Daitosti Karichit Yasmin Vishamavatirnam
O Lord, no one can understand your transcendental pastimes, which appear to be human and are so misleading. You have no specific object of favor, nor do you have an object of envy. That's said over and over again, and it's true. People only imagine that you are partial. So the previous verse had embedded in it destiny or free will. Which is it? And also partial, impartial. Because if bad things happen, it looks like he's partial to people that were bad things don't happen, or good things happen. He's partial. So is he partial or impartial? And when he does, what's he doing? What he's doing? What are his intentions? Again, the contradictory dynamic is being pointed out. Apparently, contradictory nature of Krishna's pastimes being pointed out. The Lord's mercy upon the fallen souls is equally distributed, just as the sun is never partial to anyone. Now, the rays of that sun seem to be partial in that they're distributed more intensely in some places and less intensely in others. So one could say, just see, the sun is partial to this and against that. Partiality in receiving the Lord's mercy is relative to the recipient, and it is not due to the partiality of the all-merciful Lord. So the previous was our actions, and now comes the receptivity. And, as much as we deserve, we receive. Not because the Lord is whimsical, or he chooses some people to favor and others to not favor. Not like that. Not whimsical. In Krishna's pastimes, he's very happy with Balaram taking care of the cows, nice calves, etc. When the Lord descends on this material world, he plays like a human being. And therefore, it appears that the Lord is partial to his devotees only. But that is not a fact. Meaning, what's the meaning? He's reciprocating with their regard for him. That's what it means. And people that don't want him, no problem. People that want him, okay. You want me this way, okay. You don't. You want me that way, okay. No, he has affection for cows, but cows have affection for him, etc. He has affection for cowherd boys, and they have affection for him. Commentary goes on this way. No one knows the intentions of the Lord who desires to hide himself in human form, who does not show favor or hatred to anyone, and about whom all men have different opinions. It's true. Commentary reads, who will decide the truth about you if there's a disagreement? Answer, no one can decide. This is explained in 2 verses. So people will have their ideas, this idea, that idea, and supposing they don't agree, the ideas don't agree and one doesn't want to yield and the other doesn't want to yield, you get the conflict situation. Now, it doesn't necessarily have to be an open, violent or something conflict situation, but sometimes it becomes that. No one knows the plan of you who desire to play the role of human beings as Rama and Krishna. They certainly look mischievous. They certainly look happy. The monkeys in the background there, they're enthusiastic to get some butter too. No one knows the plan of you who desire to delude the fools by not letting them see your sweet qualities. There's a nice discussion about the washerman in the Leela of Krishna, when the washerman of King Kamsa refused to let Krishna take cloth for the cowherd boys. Because I spent a fair amount of time recently with Ramayana, it turns out that the washerman who refused to give clothing to Krishna and Balaram and the cowherd boys had a previous life. In his previous life, he was the washerman who criticized Ramachandra for accepting Sita back even after she had been in the hands of Ravana and away from home, because in Vedic culture, that's a no-no. No, she was kidnapped, but it was a no-no. I mean, there's other examples. Amba was not accepted by Shalva because Amba had been touched by Bhishma when he kidnapped the three sisters. So he refused. I can't accept you. So when the washerman criticized Ram, Ram took an extreme action. He sent Sita to the forest, not just to the forest, to Valmiki's ashram to deliver her to twins, or her child or children. I guess they didn't know if it was twins before they were born. And there's further discussion, this is extra, but further discussion in Padma Purana, who was the washerman before he was the washerman that criticized Ramachandra. You know the answer? Vineet, you know the answer? Padma Purana? Here's the answer. It's very interesting. One of the Sanskrit terms for a Brahmana is Dvija. Dvija, Dve means two, and Ja means taking birth. Dvijas are persons who have second birth. Birth from mother and father, and birth from the spiritual master in the Vedas. So Brahmanas are identified as Dvija. But this is just storytelling. It's not specific to Queen Kunti. Birds are also Dvijas because the bird has two births. One is an egg, and then when the egg hatches, they become a bird. So bird is a Dvija. I'm pausing so that sinks in. So two parrots, according to Padma Purana, two parrots were perched on a tree in the kingdom of King Janak. when she was still a young girl. And the two birds were singing Ramayana before it even happened. Valmiki wrote Ramayana because he could see past, present, future, like Vyas. So they were singing Ramayana, and she heard, she was charmed, and she heard about how she was going to marry a young prince whose name was Rama. And she became real curious, like, tell me more, tell me more. And the two parents said, we don't know more, we only know what we heard. Where'd you hear it? We were living in the forest by the ashram of Valmiki, and he was singing Ramayana, and we're just repeating what we heard. That's what parents do. Tell me more, tell me more. We can't tell you more, we only know what we heard. And so she became angry. Said, I'm gonna lock you up in a cage until you tell me more. But one of the birds, a female bird, was pregnant. And so she said, I'm going to keep this female bird. The male bird, you can go elsewhere. And the female bird was freaking out, squawking and crying, and I can't, I'm pregnant, please don't leave me like this. I'm used to being free, and I'm used to being with my husband. Please don't do this. She refused. I want to hear more about the story that you're narrating. In her great distress, the female bird died right in the cage. And the male bird, seeing his companion die in the cage, uttered a curse. You are also going to have to experience the same pain that I'm experiencing in separation from my wife. And he flew in the air and landed in a river and drowned. According to Padma Purana, that curse of Advija resulted in him becoming a washerman in his next life and speaking in such a way that caused Sita to be separated from her husband when she was pregnant. Padma Purana. But when Ram knew about the washerman making a criticism of him, he didn't want to do any harm. And so that washerman in his next life, he became the washerman that you see on the screen, the fellow who is the washerman of Kamsa. And Krishna helped the washerman by liberating him, releasing him from the burden of his offense in his previous life to Lord Ramachandra. No one knows the plan of you who desire to delude the fools by not letting them see your sweet pastimes. Another painting, similar, difficult to understand. Many people who saw the liberation of Shishupal, they were very surprised. The whole of chapters, whole of Canto 7 begins and is a response to that question. How did Shishupal get liberated? He was such a bad guy. But we all saw he got Sayuja Mukti. But he was such a bad guy. And great sages and mystics and austere yogis, they try for years and lifetimes and they don't get liberation. And this bad guy got liberation. Can you explain? Commentary. All men have differing ideas about you. Yasmin Vishama Matir Nrinam. The sun shows attachment to the sunstone. Here's a sunstone. By imparting its own qualities. In other words, a sunstone is a certain kind of stone that when it is in contact with the sunlight, It doesn't just reflect the sunlight, but it absorbs the sunlight. And it carries sunlight. It just has that characteristic. The sun shows attachment to the sunstone, apparently, partiality. It shows indifference to the blind people, and the sun is indifferent to blind people because they can't see the sun, and is helpful to the Chakravaka bird, who becomes joyful when the sun rises and destroys darkness. The sun is harmful to the darkness used by thieves and owls. But the sun is not partial to anyone. It manifests the same light to all. The cause of difference is the good or bad qualities of the specific object. It is the same with the Lord. Different people relate with the Lord in different ways according to their qualities. Interesting, yes? Now, I think there's enough here for discussion. I can just stop and we'll see what kind of discussion. Should I go back and cover some of the stuff? Or is it let it just stop babbling and let it settle and see what happens? Yes.
So you covered the partiality, but you haven't gotten to the second part yet.
Which is?
About like predestination.
No, that's in the previous verse.
Okay.
That's verse 28.
Okay.
Destiny or not. And the answer is, I don't mind saying it again and again and again. It's not exactly that what's going to happen in our life, where we go after this life. When you're born, it's already set in stone because your stars say it, whatever they say, and that's it. Everything's scripted. The good and the bad and the ugly, it's scripted. Just, row your boat. As if you don't have any free will choices as you're moving along, because it's all destined. And the answer to that is no. Like Prabhupada said, the palmist can tell you, according to the lines in your hand, what are the influences on your life. Then you attend arti and clap your hands, and the lines can change. Meaning, destiny can change. If you take a life of devotion, then it's not scripted. Now, supposing you're not taking the life of devotion, still, for the non-devotee person, they have choices. Question: are their choices scripted? Answer: no. They may have a shorter rope, they may have a longer rope, but they have choices. So here comes the situation. Now I have a choice of how I'm going to respond to this situation. Say a good opportunity or a challenging situation or whatever it is. I have limited freedom. It's not predetermined that I'm going to choose that instead of this. I have free will, minute free will, limited free will. And based upon those choices, my destiny changes. Not 100%, but incrementally, something changes. The mix, like a kaleidoscope, turn a little bit, and whoa. That's the destiny question. What comes our way is due to our past choices. And as things come our way, we're again making choices.
But I'm thinking about the fact that in our conditioned state, people don't think, their mind does not tell them that you actually have the freedom to respond. And people get into habits and they'll spend decades living.
That's the modes of nature. But the modes of nature can change. In fact, they do. Even if one's not a devotee, the modes of nature are regularly changing. Just like, the seasons and the time of day and the weather in Atlanta, things keep changing. We're making choices as we go along.
So even the choices are predetermined.
I can't hear you.
The choices are predetermined.
The choices are predetermined.
No. There's a menu, and the menu isn't predetermined. You determine the menu, and then you select from the menu. Supposing somebody says something nice, and then 2 hours later, somebody says something nasty. And how you respond to the something nice and how you respond to the something nasty, is it predetermined? No. It's influenced by guna and karma, yes. But the more you move towards the quality of goodness, the more you have the brainstorm list of options becomes larger. And so your capacity to consider your options, expands. And your capacity to select wisely expands. So is it predetermined how you're going to respond to some situation? No. No. It's given by someone, but it's not predetermined. Just like right now, we're having a dialogue. Is it predetermined that you're going to ask the question the way that you're? It's governed by modes of nature and karma, guna and karma. Now, supposing you're a liberated soul, may that day come when you become a liberated soul. Your options have just expanded exponentially. Was that predetermined? No. It's reciprocal. And with whom is it reciprocal? It's reciprocal with Paramatma. It's not predetermined. There's tendency, yes. Due to guna and karma, there's tendency. But that can also, I can step outside of the tendency may be to get angry when somebody says something mean. And the tendency can change to just be very tolerant, because I have something far more important. My mission of life is far more important than this situation with somebody's saying something nasty. It's a blip in the screen. I can see the blip, but there's something far more important to me. Supposing I don't have that sense of higher mission. It's one of these things that in a presentation, suppose that I've done so many times. Supposing you're rushing to the hospital to get somebody to the hospital, and somebody cuts you off. Now, it's not nice that somebody cut you off, but you don't get involved in a dispute with the person who cut you off because you got somebody in the back seat. You got to get them to the hospital. That mission is so important and urgent. You just focused on that one thing. Now, supposing you're not focused on that one thing. You follow? So There's lots of variabilities, varying factors besides transcendence. So transcendence gives you the most freedom. But supposing you're not a transcendentalist yet, you're working in that direction, but not there yet, like the most of us. So then, there's tendency, but you also have choices.
Choices are by His grace, right?
By what?
By His grace.
I like your question, I just can't hear it.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
What did I say? What did I say? Yes, the choices are by His grace. Like example, that princess who cursed who trapped the parrot,
Yeah, that was.
and then the parrot had to curse the princess. All this is cosmic. The princess did not want.
When it comes to Sita and Ram, it's inspired by Super Soul. When it comes to you and me, it's inspired by the modes of nature.
But we are all connected, right? We are connected
Yes and
to
no.
Paramatma, and Paramatma is
There's
making
another
us.
set of rules operating when someone is a pure devotee. Let's go to you and me, not Sita and a
Okay.
pastime of the Supreme Lord.
All right. So even the process of me coming over here,
Good.
the process of me coming over here was, though I wanted to come, but it
Right.
was predetermined.
No.
You can say if I was not supposed to come,
No.
I could have had another event. I could have had an accident. I could have many things.
It's not predetermined. You have choices. It wasn't predetermined that of the possible things, and you had another opportunity and you chose this one. It was a predetermined choice. No. You made choice. We have free will. Look, living entities are part and parcel of the Supreme, who has unlimited free will. Well, little sparks. So we also have little, not unlimited, very limited free will of the soul. Thank you. So you made some choice coming here. And whether there were other choices that were on your, screen or not, you made a choice. And supposing something else came on the screen just before you got in your car to come over here and said, "Hey, one of my dearest friends wants me to come visit them. I'm going to do a U-turn and go visit them." That's a choice. It's not predestined. Sorry. You heard the sound effect, right? That means no. Wasn't predetermined. Benit wants to add something. I can tell. No? Okay, let's come front row.
Just on this topic, what about when in the Gita when it says that the Lord knows past, present, and the future? So He knows our future choices
Of
or
course.
fall downs.
He knows everything. Is there something he doesn't know? Because he knows it, does it mean we're scripted? Super Soul knew she wanted to come. She's going to come. She had no choice because it's predetermined. No. Knowing something doesn't take away a living being's free will. Sorry. She wants to say it again, but I'm going to say no again. Go ahead. Is that it?
Yes, that's it. Thank you.
Okay,
for
over
clarifying.
Hare Krishna. Just to continue driving this point home, is it like you're given a color palette? So I didn't have so much say on what colors I was provided. So let's say I'm provided blue, red, and yellow. So I can paint with those colors, blue, red, and yellow. And then as I evolve my capacity to use these colors, I can create other colors with these colors, but it's still within the scheme of the colors that are being provided for me.
All right. So, now, because you happen to select those three, you can make any color. But you could also have said, excuse me, could I have that color in addition to these three, please? No, it doesn't mean that the other color is going to be provided, but you have options. Always. There's never a time when you don't, because we're souls. And we're parts of the Supreme Soul that has unlimited free will, so we have some tiny free will. It's tiny, and it's dependent. We can't just demand, I want two other colors. You can add. So we're dependent. We're tiny and dependent. Our free will is dependent, not unlimited. Now we have a different story to tell about Sita and Ram, or the Supreme Lord and his eternal associates. And they have a different set of rules. I mean, they have one, they just want the satisfaction of the personality of Godhead. And the personality of Godhead wants the satisfaction of his devotees. That's the loving rule. And then it's different over here in La La Land, where we have all kinds of other desires and choices that keep moving as the kaleidoscope turns. You okay? You think? How are we doing? Anyone else? The need, come on.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. I've heard this example from my senior god brothers. They say that it's like when you say you're going from point A to point B in the car, you set a GPS on a mapping software and say while you're on the way, you make a wrong turn.
It happens.
And so it's not that once you make a wrong turn, the mapping software shouts like, "Why did you do that? Now we're lost. We cannot go anywhere."
It just reroutes you.
It reroutes you. It provides another path.
Yes.
So he uses that example to say that we have the choice to choose between several paths.
Yes.
And even if we make wrong choices, there will always be the option to reroute.
Yes.
But we are not going to be forced to choose what is offered by the map. We can keep taking any.
Yes, that's right. That's right.
So that is one example.
I know some people that drive. I'm very surprised. They put their GPS on and they do what they want to do anyways. And it's not exactly like that. They know that it's this time of the day, or they know that the bridge is out, and the GPS doesn't know the bridge is out, so they go a different route because they know the bridge is out. Anyway, yes, we have choices. Even follow the GPS or not, follow the indication of Super Soul or not. Are we done?
So I had a clarification regarding the same topic. So does that mean that all souls' destiny is the same, but based on our sincerity of purpose to make the choices, the right ones, we get to the final destination faster?
Yes.
So all souls will reach
Also,
consciousness. All souls will reach Krishna consciousness at some point. Like, is that
Well, as long as you're not saying it's automatic, because
okay.
it's not automatic. It's not a vending machine. But, back on the premise, there's sincerity of purpose, then, and guidance will be there to get us there. And we still have to keep saying yes, but it's not automatic.
Yeah, as you're helping correct my understanding, I just had one more.
Great.
I'm not sure about, like, so if the Lord is impartial, that means that, like pious credits are generally where people see the Lord and they think, oh, it's not fair, he got this.
Yeah.
So can you help me understand, pious credits are earned? It's different than mercy?
Well,
They're by pleasing the Lord?
let's go slowly. Pious credits are earned, yes. Now, what's your understanding of mercy? The mercy is material and spiritual. There's spiritual mercy that may say no. And the material mercy may say, according to your deserve.
I don't understand that.
Okay. Let's do the material one. I've done 3X and 4Y and 15Z pious activities. I've earned some merit. However, I've also made some boo-boos. And that's some demerits. And you put it in a bag and shake it up, and how's it going to come out? Sometimes. And our lives are a mix of good, pious activities and not necessarily intentional, but wrong activities. It's kind of jumbled up. And because the time energy is moving, and sometimes this fructifies, and then sometimes that fructifies, and sometimes it's kind of an explosion. And we're going along for the ride. Now, as we're going along for the ride, we're bearing the fruits of our past activities, which one can say is destiny. What's coming at us is destiny. But how we respond to what's coming at us, that free will is still operative. Now, your question was about mercy. So one may take it that mercy is you get what you deserve. And another higher sense of mercy is, please take me out of this cause and effect syndrome. Please take me beyond the material good and bad to the plane where there's only transcendence. And that plane of transcendence is, it's for your purpose only that I choose to do things. You are my shelter, and I have no other shelter. I've made that choice, and then comes mercy that's different than, here's the plus and here's the minus, and you mix them up. And it's fair. Because you did, so you've earned some plus and you've earned some minus. So that's a kind of mercy. And then there's a higher kind of mercy. You withdraw one from that cause and effect machine and go to the transcendental realm, where there's only one thing. Krishna is my shelter and I have no other shelter. And that's the guiding principle of my life, and I don't deviate this, Kunti. My mind doesn't go anywhere else, regardless of what's going on. I deal with what's going on, but my mind doesn't go anywhere else. That's mercy. One who can receive that, that's mercy. Now, let's just get real and practical. There's you and me, and there's a few of us here in the room. And let's say we want that. Really? How strongly do we want that? Or how much do we still have residual attachment to the temporary? Here's a Prabhupada story. I think I'm going to end with this because we've gone for an hour. Prabhupada saying, you say to Krishna, my dear Lord Krishna, from this day forward I am yours. Krishna says, oh, are you sure? What about a little sense gratification? Prabhupada's voice went like that. And then the devotee says, he looked, no, I only want you. Prabhupada did a little, it was nice. It was great. What about some difficulty? What if you got some difficulty? What about that? You still want me? And the devotee says, I don't mind the difficulty. I only want you. Please relieve the difficulty. I only want you. Oh. It seemed they really want me. Let me give myself to them. So in other words, there may be some, for a devotee, besides just, the cause and effect of things, you take shelter of 20% and he gives himself to you 20%. There's that kind of thing. 80%, he gives himself 80%. As if it's a machine, like a vending machine or something mechanical. But there's something personal because it's a relationship. So Krishna wants our hearts. So there may be some examining what our heart is. Not that he doesn't know, but he wants us to have a little exam before he gives himself to us. So that goes on. This goes on. But that's mercy. Another kind of mercy, beside the tit for tat, where the good gets good and the bad gets bad, and then you tally it up and draw a double line, and there's your life. Destiny. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.